Hello and welcome to another episode of Sonic Touch, the show dedicated to making music on touch devices. I'm Nick Batt, editor of SonicState.com.
And I'm Gaz Williams, a bass player and a music producer.
So this time we're going to look at Korg Gadget. It's a kind of new environment for creating music with lots and lots of little devices. We sort of missed out a little bit on it because of the spacing of NAMM and Mesa being so close together this year, but we're going to put that right now.
Yeah, because Gadget really does require a good look at it because it's quite a special piece of software.
But before we start, we're giving away 2 copies of Gadget. Stay tuned. Details at the end of the show on how to win one.
Okay, so let's have a look, shall we? So I'm going to load up Gadget, and what we'll do is we'll create a new project. And what I like about this is it gives you like an automatic naming.
So it comes up with ideas. Worst, small, what? Credible foul was the last one.
Incredible foul, yeah. Garden score. So sluggish conflict. There we go. So the next thing that we see is the Gadget selection. And as I scroll through these, first thing we notice is that they're all named after various cities of the world. And I have no idea if there's any correlation between the city and the Gadget. But as we look through it, we'll see there is an absolute a bountiful kind of collection.
And these come out of the box with it.
That's right.
None of these are in-app purchases. Or anything.
No. So there's 15 gadgets in all, and the gadgets they kind of range from drum modules, like a kind of a 303 type thing.
It's surely a Korg Volca, isn't it?
Korg Volca kind of thing. Various synths, and it's interesting when you look at the graphics of them, you can kind of see where the influence is kind of coming from. I mean, let's look at this one, for instance. This is called the Berlin, and when we look at the controls, look familiar?
Yes.
It's got a Yamaha?
Yeah, it's a Yamaha-ish
sort of
kind
look
of vibe to it,
yeah. And so forth, so we can, we can choose other gadgets. And as I say,
they're all very different in terms of flavour as well, right?
Yes. I think what's quite interesting about this is rather than just it providing like one synthesizer that's incredibly complicated, it's almost as though they've taken various parameters from certain synths and just kind of grouped them together. So rather than having to negotiate an enormously complicated synthesizer, they're kind of relatively stripped down.
So how does this work anyway?
Okay. Yes. So as I say, we would choose our starting ones. So in this case, though, I think I'll scroll down. I'm going to choose this percussion synthesizer called the Tokyo.
That's funny because it almost looks like a Euro rack.
It does, doesn't it? And it certainly is something that looks very nice on the Retina display. I think all the control, it's been beautifully rendered. The graphics are very pleasing.
Is running on an iPad Air, we should say, actually, isn't it?
It is, and more about that later because that is a crucial thing that we will talk about shortly. But we can see in the Tokyo that this is like essentially 4 modules, almost like Eurorack modules, and the screen is split into 2, like a sequencing section and the module section. And if I was to get things running and I can get the metronome on, it's defaulting to 1 bar and just simply pretty much etc. da 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 da. So you can sort of see the gist. Very fast to
I mean, I can see all the animations on the steps.
It's nice, actually, and there's like a kind of yellow line as the play bar kind of goes past. So nice little animations. What we also notice is down the bottom here, we have like the velocities. But if I was to touch that, see how they expand? Right. And then, that gives us like a little bit more room to work within.
And that's kind of familiar tales that you'd expect to see in a DAW as well.
Yes.
Step edit, key edit.
Exactly. But what we also notice, though, along the side here are all of the various automatable parameters. So, so we can just select them and then we get these kind of like lanes up. And then from the lanes, we can, I can draw
stuff in.
Draw animation in. But also, like if I was just to drop the track into record, then all the parameters, as I adjust any of the parameters that are here, we'll notice that they all, so you can get the most extraordinary amount of animation going on within.
Wow, yeah, that is impressive. That's very quick.
Yeah.
So it's essentially pattern-based automation.
Yes.
Right.
And what we also notice now here, I'll just stop the track for a moment. Can you see how the automation is snapping to the grid? There's a little discrete button in the corner called function. If I hit function, then we get a few options open, which includes kind of grid control. So we could like turn. So if we were to turn the grid off and then go back, then we can get in and do much tighter.
Right, still stepped, but much tighter.
Yes.
And also, this is a nice touch. These are the lanes.
Yes.
The ones which are highlighted here are the lanes that have got automation
on. Yeah. So it's nice and easy to see. But let's just have a quick look now at the way that the bars are kind of laid out. So we can see that this all takes place in one bar. But again, if I hit function, I can extend that loop. And let's just extend it out to 4 bars. So now we can see along the top, we've got 4 bars. And then basically,
it's 3 bars are which are
3 bars are empty. So let's go back to function. And I can say copy. I can say select source. So I want to copy source 1, bar 1, select destination. Now, if I can do this right, I think you can copy it into all the bars, but
yeah, I see.
Except I didn't do it. I find it a little bit fiddly to do them all, but theoretically, you can do that.
Can you copy the automation, not the automation? Oh yes, you can.
Well, no. I think it will take. It does take the automation across with it.
Right. Yes. I see.
And then.
But you can clear it, I suppose.
But if I was to go clear automation,
it'll clear the whole lot.
It'll clear the lot. Yeah.
But you can overwrite. It doesn't.
Yeah, you can overwrite it. Absolutely.
Let's listen to another gadget.
Okay. So.
I mean, the thing is with the review of this nature, obviously we'll do our best to cover it, but with 15 of them.
Yeah, I mean.
Maybe a synthesizer would be a good thing to go for next.
So we hit the little plus sign here, and I guess, would you like to choose one, sir? Which city would
I'm liking the
fancy?
Look of Berlin. I'm going to take Berlin, because I have a CS15 in the back room, which I'm...
Okay. So just a quick look at the synthesizer itself. Quite a lot of these have 2 pages, and in this case, it's sort of toggled by this little slider thing here. How do I do that now? There we are.
There we go, right, a bit fiddly.
A bit fiddly, isn't it? There we go. So I got the motion there, sorry. So we can see that there's 2 pages of parameters, and...
only works in portrait mode, we've noticed as well.
It's only portrait mode, yes. So that might be troublesome for some people who've got them in docks, which are sort of fixed to landscape. So, but we can look along the bottom here, we have...
all the steps.
The keys, the notes. And if I hit the scale button, it lets us choose not only the musical scale, but it also chooses which octave we're in and how many octaves. Look, if I went to say 4, it'll make them...
okay.
You know, and then there's a scale step as well, which is how many steps of the scale.
Okay, what does it sound like?
Okay.
Got a sort of Odyssey feel almost to it.
It does actually. I'm going to make the scale, the octave range, just a bit smaller because they are a bit small for my fingers. What I noticed though is that there's no
lateral travel up the keys in this instance, right? Okay. We also got this CME X keys plugged in.
Yes.
Which allows us to play. And it seems to have velocity as well. So, for instance, with this, I'd find it easier to play with a keyboard.
Yep.
Does it got no pitch bend and no...
That's right.
So it's a limited amount of MIDI input.
Yes, I noticed many people are kind of feeling this is that the MIDI isn't particularly deeply implemented.
And also but there is a slight amount of latency because this is obviously doing about. Let's put something in and maybe wiggle the filter around so we can just take a listen because from what I've heard so far, the sound quality is actually.
Yeah. Would you like to record something? Let's see what you can come up with.
Octave down, probably.
It's down there, isn't it? Nice 3-bar loop to confuse you. It's a 3-bar loop.
Oh, thank you. Right, so but now I can, if I go to the filter. Okay, that's an unusual pattern, but you can see here that all my automation is happening there, so I can do an awful lot. This has got a delay built in and what have you.
Yeah.
Okay, so So if we come out of record. So I can see with this.
Turn the metronome off.
Turn the metronome off and press stop a sec. I mean, I can see very quickly.
Yep.
You're already starting to jam stuff, and that seems to be.
Yeah.
I mean, the MIDI side of it is perhaps secondary, because what Korg tend to do with a lot of these things is they go, "This is how we think it's going to work," and when you say, "But I want it to do all this other stuff," they go, "Well, tough. It's this is how we envisage it." So and I think this is probably again one of those instances.
Yeah, I really feel that it is designed to be like a self-contained thing, and I also think that the emphasis is in, adding notes into the grid.
Right.
So this is jumping back to the overview where we can see we've got a mixing desk here, and as this mixing desk will grow as we add the gadgets.
So is this a scene or a track, or what's the?
Yeah,
so we've got tracks going
tracks
this way,
down and scenes.
So it's
across.
almost like the Ableton paradigm.
Very similar.
Have you got something a bit more complicated that we can load up to demonstrate what's going on there?
So I've got manifold palatine or palatine.
So this is more complicated, a more complicated arrangement.
Yes, and now this little button comes into play in the top here, which lets us see, makes a whole screen of. So here we've got 10 scenes going along.
Right.
And and I can drag along here as well.
A lot of tracks.
I've got 13 tracks. But yes, I'm not sure if all 13 are playing at any one particular time. But then, if we get our mixing desk back up and then we pan across, we can see all the gadgets all lined up there.
Nearly used all of them, or at least one for
working towards it. So let's just start it here. So we can see the
progress through the pattern.
Yeah. When it reaches the end now, it'll move to the next scene. Okay.
Right, and are all these patterns the same length?
No, that's the thing. So patterns can be of any length, but the scene will play for the longest pattern. So in this case, I mean, these patterns are...
these are moving at slightly different rates, aren't they?
Yes. And I think this next...
This sort of sounds a little bit like John Carpenter.
Big influence. But if we were to engage the loop, then when it gets to the end, it just goes round. So it's great, actually. It means you can just refine your scene, and then as soon as you want, you can take that off, and then it will become...
It's almost like the Ableton follow-on function.
It is, yeah, albeit quite simple. But
nice breakdown.
So let's have a look at that function button again. So when I press that function button...
Whoa!
Yeah.
Okay.
So this column on the left here gives us controls over, I can delete entire scenes, duplicate scenes, insert a break if I want to make a scene in between existing scenes, and also I can adjust the sort of time signature here, which is a little bit, you might be looking for that in the pattern, but you find it in the scene, so you can, but it does mean that you can have different time signatures. Yes, which is quite cool. In the bottom part here, we've got controls over the track. So we can swap out gadget, swap it out for another gadget, but keep all the pattern the same.
And there's a freeze function as well.
Yes, and I think that will lead us on to this next issue, where freeze will render an audio file, and that will kind of lock out you from being able to change the parameters, but it will render
save CPU, I suppose.
To save CPU.
Same thing that GarageBand uses, isn't it? I mean, it's the way to conserve things.
And I think this is a timely moment to sort of look at the CPU usage, because this is a juicy app. This is an app that needs the more recent generations of the iPad. This is the iPad Air, as we mentioned, which is the current sort of standard. It'll run well on the next one down, but then you'll see diminishing returns as you go through the earlier generations. Now, if we go to the website here, we can have a look at the approximate number of devices and tracks. So the iPad Air, it's saying that we can run 20 to 25 tracks, which is quite impressive, really. Live tracks, yes. And then when you use the freeze function, we can get that up to 30 to 35 tracks, and that'll be simultaneous. So that's a lot of stuff going on. And then we'll see that diminish. The fourth generation gets down to 15 tracks and 20 tracks with the freeze, down to the iPad 2, which is 5 tracks and 8 tracks with a freeze function.
Is the original iPad even mentioned there?
No, it doesn't even make it on there, sadly.
As we've said before, that's sort of pretty much obsolete these days.
Sadly, yes. But that gives an indication anyway of, well, both how much extra power there is between, say, the iPad 2 and the iPad Air, but also, you know, you can see whether it's worth your while to get a piece of software like this.
So you know, saving, loading, what happens? You can.
Okay, so we'll come out of the function mode again. Okay, if we hit here, well, we can see that we can go new, open, save, and save as.
Wow. Now, this is actually a big deal. I mean, I did sort of set this up a little bit because, you know, most things, you know, looking in GarageBand and lots of iPad-based applications work on a current state basis.
Yes.
And you open something, you change it, and you don't need to save it, it's changed. Whereas this, at least you could go in and mess it all up and then go, actually, I don't want to save it, or not save it at all, and it's gone.
Because with like GarageBand, you have to duplicate your project first and then work on the duplicate, you know.
Yeah, and it's almost a cloud-based way of doing things, which it takes. It's for old boys where it's like file save as, and you're working on a document, and you might want to throw away those changes. It takes a bit of a paradigm shift, and that's really good to see that.
Yeah, that is good to see. And then of course we've got our export option there, which will take a mix down of all the tracks as you've laid out with your scenes.
Stereo mix.
A stereo mix. Exportable to sort of like audio copy, Dropbox, create an audio file to use for your iTunes sharing, and Gadget Cloud. So Gadget Cloud is if we go and have a little look at the Gadget Cloud, we've seen a similar thing to this on the IMPC
cloud type of,
specifically for, you know, so you can, you know, and like you can follow people on Gadget Cloud, and you could like listen to sort of people's tunes that they're doing.
Ribbing. Interesting title.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Oh, well, that's the thing, but they're all Korg.
Yeah, unobjectionable error, swank hose.
Somebody's obviously got a very big, good sense of humour. It's nice to see in something that's essentially, you know, a corporate product, to see a bit of humour injected.
Yeah, that's very cool.
So, when you're exporting, I mean, it seems to me like there's 2 things that I would want, looking at this straight away.
Yeah.
I'd want to maybe doodle some vocals over it and record some audio tracks. Is that possible?
Well, it does support audio bus.
Ah, okay.
So you could run it in the front of your chain of audio bus, and now with audio bus 2, you could be running it simultaneously along with.
Well, that's going to put some fairly heavy juice on the CPU, isn't it?
That's also true. So I
mean, the other thing would be to be able to export individual tracks, so that if I come up with a neat beat pattern, you know, assuming I can't record, at least if I just export that.
I suppose that's where the save as thing comes in. You could just sort of just delete the tracks you didn't need or solo them, and you know there is ways around that.
I mean, in some ways, my brain is starting to go, oh, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do this?
Yeah.
And that's a good sign that this is going to be a sort of creatively valid tool. And how can I incorporate it into my workflow?
Yes.
And in many ways, you know, that's a good sign, right?
Definitely. This is one of the most inspiring and easy to use apps. I find that I can build up tracks quicker and more fluidly than in any other app that I've used to date, really, in terms of the sequencing. And actually the thing that really is, you know, hugely powerful is the quality of the sound. Let's just have a look at some of the interesting gadgets.
Yes, great.
The Kiev one is quite nice because the Kiev one lets you have 4 different oscillators, and then you've got this kind of like a chaos pad thing that you can then automate. You can automate let me create a new one, and we'll see
like
that.
A path between the oscillators.
Yes. So let's I'll just create a new track, and I'll bring a new Kiev in. Nice to see Kiev getting some positive.
Well, absolutely. It's that and chicken, isn't it, really?
Okay, hang on, have I got solo in? We're going to jump back here, and we've got no sound. Oh, here we are. We have got sound. It's just
a very
slow. Okay, let's just flick through. Okay.
Wow, so it's quite complicated.
Yeah, so
that sounds like an M1.
It does sound like an M1.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Universe, I believe.
There it is, look, in the bottom, Universe.
Yes, get in. That's I feel proud that I've remembered that.
Yeah, that's quite a nice kind of nod to the past, really. So if I was just to drop into record, I've put the metronome on, and so here we go. So we're just gonna. So then moving around here. But something that's quite cool is like, so say once I've recorded my automation in like so, I can now change patches but maintain the automation as well.
Oh, that's nice.
So it's quite interesting as you change patches.
So this has got basically each oscillator can be a different patch and you're sort of morphing or crossfading.
Yeah, essentially. And I mean, if I touch on here, oh, good thinking. Yeah. We can actually, this looks a little bit like the IK oscillator sort of grid for choosing the sounds, which sound you've got in each of the 4 slots. And if we toggle this button here, we get another XY pad, and this is a sort of a master filter, you know, again using the chaos pad.
I mean, it's just very creative, isn't it? I mean, it's something that just...
Yeah. But again, one of the great pleasures with this app is just discovering what each app has, which each gadget has to offer. Really,
a lot of work gone into it.
Yeah, it's lovely. Okay, so as I said, we're going to have a little look at some of the other ones. Now, I like the Kingston, which is quite fun. It's like for your chiptunes fans.
Like sort of like an arcade.
It looks like an arcade machine, and like, you know, we've got these buttons like run and jump. So if we listen. You know. So, you know, and there's different effects you can put on. And that's cool as well. Automation, you know, when you change effects.
Oh, that's also
that
stored,
automates
right.
as well, yes. I'm looking at just like one bar here. And, you know, as if I can just add these. These are kind of locked to whatever the scale is here.
Right,
so,
okay.
you know, you can be really like kind of, you know, Jackson Pollock, like, you know, just anything. And then just, and I think they've really kind of got the multi-touch idea down to a T with this. You know, we've seen with some of the other kind of DAW things that sometimes it
misses the mark a bit.
It misses the mark. It's maybe trying too much to be like a kind of a computer-based sequencer, and this is very much, based around this touch interface. Just a few other things whilst we're looking. When we look at the tempo, we can set our swing tempo, and we can tap in our tempo there as well. So those are kind of pretty cool things. If I go into the settings, we've just one lowly setting.
Whist.
It's whist.
Right.
Is
there a snap function? So if I want to trigger this scene and then at the next quarter note or bar, is it always to the very end of the sequence? Can I?
So if it's playing, and now I trigger that. If I trigger it a second time, it will jump. But when
okay, so you've got.
But that might follow the grid. I haven't actually thought to check that.
Okay, but it is possible to jump out of sequence and move around.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
So you're not having to wait the whole time. So, you know, we can just make a fast jump.
I guess what would be really cool is to be able to have the scene trigger on a keyboard or external controller.
Are you listening, Korg?
That would be nice.
Yeah.
But it seems that this whole framework just feels like a good thing to hang all this stuff on. I mean, it feels. Yes. I feel like I trust it, and I'm kind of itching to get hold of it and start playing with it myself.
It really is very rewarding. I mean, I was very keen as soon as I got hold of it, and I made a few videos on my website just to sort of go, whoa, look at this, because I was really excited about it. You know, so yes, so this I think really, for me, is probably the peak now of you know,
of what you can do.
I must admit, I really do like tabletop. I think tabletop, perhaps prior to this, and especially if you have an expanded version of tabletop. Now that's an interesting point there. Tabletop really becomes good once you've expanded it, whereas
this is out the box.
But it becomes a price issue,
right?
Because this isn't a cheap app.
No.
Now you could break it down and say, well, if each gadget was
an
in-app purchase and it was a fully expanded one, then maybe it would be kind of equivalent to something like Tabletop Fully Expanded.
We're sort of teasing now. Now we need to say what the price actually is, isn't it?
Yes, and the price is
£27.49 UK pounds, $38.99 US dollars. So premium app,
definitely,
but pretty damn good.
I would say so.
I'm thinking Gold Award. What about you?
I'm thinking that too.
So, Gold Award for the Korg Gadget.
Yep.
I mean, even with the limitations of the MIDI controller,
and a bit of that latency lag as well.
It's just got so many aspects that make you want to just not put it down.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's one of only, how many have we done now? 5 perhaps.
That's the fifth.
That's the fifth. So congratulations, Korg, and the app designers should take a pay rise. Just don't tell them we said.
Yes, and let's hope that they continue to support the platform, because it's certainly worth it, and it would make me a happy bunny. Okay,
and as we said at the beginning of the programme, we've got 2 copies of Gadget to give away. All you've got to do is subscribe via this button here if you're watching on YouTube, or this button here on Sonic State, and leave a comment in the comments below, and we'll pick a winner. And then, as we say, we've got 2 to give away.
But also just comment anyway, because we love your comments. It's a vital part of our...
Positive or negative, or if you've got something you want us to take a look at, leave them in the comments below.
Yes.
Anyway, that's it for this time. Thanks for watching.
Yeah.